What's going on, everyone? CryptoVatsik here with another TA video for you. As always, nothing of what you're about to see is considered financial advice, as they are just my opinions. But if you do enjoy this content, please like and subscribe to the channel. Okay, in this video, I'm going to be covering Chainlink. And very clearly, first off, we had this accumulation range that ranged for quite some time. And that's what led to this powerful move to the upside, which ultimately broke market structure into a bullish structure, breaking out of this accumulation, putting in fresh new highs, and then ultimately coming back down and just retesting the range high of this accumulative structure that we had back here for some time. And there was clearly some resistance zones in here that we were still working with, or at the time we were still working with, where we ended up putting in our fresh high and then our correction thereafter, which is fine, perfectly healthy to see right out of an accumulation range. So from a macro sense, we've ultimately broken that market structure into a bullish structure. We've had our accumulation, we've had our correction and retest of previous resistance, and have now broken with confidence to the upside and actually piercing our resistance in red here, macro resistance zone. So for now, I'm going to flip this zone to green because logically, using SR theory, it's now become support. That is, unless this current weekly candle somehow manages to come down and close below that green zone. Personally, I don't think it's possible given the time that we've got left in this weekly candle, just under 8 hours. So I would expect that this candle ends up at least closing somewhere above the green zone here, which would be fine because on a lower time frame, such as the daily, we could essentially just be retesting that zone until further upside. One of the things I like to do is check out our fib-based extension tool, which will take from the low to the high of this move, and that will provide us our nice fib extensions to use as a reference. They are not concrete, but certainly can be used as a reference. You can see we're currently getting our 1-to-1 extension, meaning this next move up is equal in size to this move up. So wouldn't be surprised if this candle closes under that 1-to-1 extension fib. Next areas I'd be looking at are the 1-618 and then eventually the 2-618. And if we take a look at prior history, we clearly see that lines up definitely with these highs, these 3 or 4 wicks. There's clearly a zone of resistance on that price level. And then eventually we've even just got the high way up here at the 2618. So lining up very nicely with our fibs on a macro time frame. So it's to be expected that we will find resistance on these moves up, but this has been a very nice move that we've seen so far. Definitely demand coming back. And really all I see here is just a falling wedge that we formed for a couple months here, or a few months, with a pretty swift breakout and retest of the diagonals high, and then it was off to the races, as you can see. So I'll just extend this green zone here as our support, okay, our current local support, and we'll drill down to the 4-hour and take a look here. Okay, so price action still looking very strong, to be honest, with clearly multiple retests of that green zone already here on the 4-hour. We had 1 stab, 2 stab, and arguably 3, all within this range high and that range low. Okay, really just consolidating around this range, but now it looks to me that we've clearly reclaimed that range equilibrium and now just consolidating near the range high. So if price continues to look like this over the coming day or two, then it's expected we'd get a breakout, and the target would be an extension of this range distance, meaning you take the distance of the range, extend it out from the range high, and then in theory that's kind of your next target. So if you're trading on the lower time frame, you could look at something like that. And to be honest with you, price is looking quite strong. So we'll see what it wants to do here. Another way of looking at it could be some sort of wedge like this, which in a bull market could be a bullish sign. You know, typically when the asset is super strong, you can consolidate within a wedge such as this for an ultimate breakout. And then same thing, the extension of the width of the wedge is essentially extracted to the breakout, leaving you your target zone. So if we see something like this over the coming days, then it's certainly plausible we get something like this. But on a high time frame, I would still be wary of the fact that we haven't really tested this green zone. So if we did get a breakout, say in the coming day or two, it doesn't mean that we couldn't come back down and retest this green zone on a macro level still. Something like this would still make sense to me, meaning if we go back to the daily here and we just take a look at this, okay, price action, again, as I said, looking very bullish. This looks like it wants to pop again, but if it does pop and we get a market-wide pullback thereafter, I'd be looking at the very least at this range that we're currently trading within as a retest, even the range high, possibly the EQ, and as I said, maybe even that range low, which is ultimately our green support zone on a macro level here. So if we did get a market-wide pullback, it could take a few days and it could bring us down back back as low as that point, with the expectation that there would be a recovery and then we would continue to the upside. It's a possible scenario to just be cautious of if you're trading on lower time frame, because if you enter a position somewhere up here, let's say on a confirmed breakout of the range high or breakout and retest of the range high, where are you going to set your stop loss? Likely below the range equilibrium or the prior lows here. So if we get that market wide pullback after a breakout, you're sitting on a nice position just to see it potentially retrace all the way down to your stop loss, stop you out, and then continue the cycle up. So if you're on the lower time frame, pick a target, ladder your sells on the way up to your target, and or potentially leave some in case it does just continue up to our next macro resistance and we don't see any of these prices again for some time. In a market like this, it could potentially shoot up to our next macro resistance. It is possible. That's why it's always good to mark out your high time frame zones first, get the big picture, and then if you want to dabble in the lower time frame, just keep them short, keep them precise. And on the vice versa, if you're looking high time frame, it's going to demand patience for that ultimate pullback, retest of prior resistance that is now support, catch that dip for the next macro move to the upside. And it could be short, it could happen within a day. You know, as an example, let's take a look at some prior candles here on the weekly. Okay, so we'll stay on the weekly here. But if you're looking at this price action in here, you're saying to yourself, okay, we've broken resistance. We've put in a major bullish candle. We're consolidating within some sort of range here. But essentially, just in a few weeks, you had an opportunity to get into the dip on a macro level until ultimately pushed much higher. And then as you can see, again, we had that market-wide pullback for quite some time and then probably stopped a lot of people out down here on that wick until it did eventually reverse. So just be wary of that if you're on low time frame or high time frame. Understand that your strategy needs to fit the time frame. But ultimately, really powerful move. Love to see it. It took some time. I think everyone was waiting to see what this accumulation range was going to do. Everyone knew it was going to pop to the upside. It was just a matter of time and really demanded patience from people. So if you're accumulating long term, great place to get involved. And then on these macro dips, anywhere in here, great place to get involved for the longer term. So personally, I'd wait for something like this to start getting involved for longer term, not candles that look like this. Anyways, guys, that's it for today. Hopefully you took something away from this video. And if you did, please like and subscribe to the channel. Trade safe, and I will see you next time. Peace.